Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages old enough to hit it and crit it, welcome to the DMs and Dicebags podcast. I am your host, Malatach.
And I am Bleakborn!
Oh dear God.
Oh, my ears.
And I'm the potato known as Spud.
And?
So today we have a special guest, don't we?
Well, I mean, I don't know about special. But we do have a guest.
There's air quotes around that.
Air quotes. So, who are you, stranger?
Well, hey, you can call me Peaches. Oh.
Done. I'm out of here.
I can vaguely hear in the background Spud hopping into a deep fryer.
Yeah, he is running away.
Yes,
No.
we have our good friend Alcipher.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes. So, how's everybody doing? Alcipher, let's start with you.
Oh, I'm doing swimmingly today.
All right.
Just, yeah.
Hanging in the California sun like a douche.
Yep. Getting away from all that lovely winter snow in the north.
I hate you so much.
That's snow.
Go
Haven't
farther
been any
north.
snow this year.
Well, we've been getting dumped on, but I don't
We
know.
always get that done.
Yeah. Bleak, how about you? How's life in your neck of the woods?
I'm doing great. Sorry, guys.
How's that sex dungeon of yours coming?
Wow, the straps are getting strapped.
Fire up the fryer!
Oh my.
Oh no!
I'm doing fine. I'm off of work now. It's my days off. I'm gonna get hopefully a lot of gaming done for my other channel. You should find me out on Malatach on YouTube.
It
And
was hard.
now, Bleak, we all know in the last few episodes you have whored out more than anybody I've seen on a street corner. So you are not one to talk.
Yeah, you're right. I do have one thing to hoard tonight, though, and it's us.
Yay.
DMs and Dicebags would love your guys' support. We are 3, now 4, mid-20s to 30s-year-old guys trying to make a living, doing a podcast.
God,
So,
your age range just hurts me. Considering I'm on the
Hurts
end.
you.
I'm on the end side of that at 29.
I'm at the other end.
I'm
Go
going to
Birdie's
27 this year, so...
I'm still just 24.
Oh, you bastard.
Oh yeah. Oh, look at the little baby.
Aren't you cute?
Oh, fuck
Spud,
off, Leo.
Spud, how old are you actually?
Too damn old.
He is 30 this year, or
Older.
31 this year.
Oh no.
Older.
Really? I thought your 30 was this year. Last year.
That's
Last year.
30 is my year this year, so
I'm 32.
I don't feel so bad now. It's like a giant weight is lifted off of my shoulders, and my back doesn't hurt as much right now.
My back hurts more.
Just think, someone's always older than you.
Well,
And
yeah.
his name is Old
Man Bones. That's my voice. God damn it! No one dares do my own voice. Not even that little bastard of a bird.
Well, I don't want to bring us all the way back to on track, but we normally do something at this point, and I think we've missed.
Yes, well, we have to find out how Spud's doing. I know he's like hanging perilously above a deep fryer, plotting why he's, how he got to this situation. But other than that, Spud, how you doing?
Learning how to tie up a knot so I can hang it from the ceiling.
Is that even
at the end of smoke.
is that gonna even work around a potato?
Depends what his
You're
shape
gonna
is.
try.
He's sure gonna try. But yes, if anybody listened to last episode, I'm gonna say last 2 weeks episode, but Spud has I caught it. Spud posed last episode's question. And since nobody Please talk to us. Nobody responded. We're going to give this question to our special torture victim, guest, Alcipher.
Ooh, lovely.
You ready?
Let's hear it.
Alright. After clearing several of the brushes that line the way, you find yourself at the entrance of a strange stone structure. If you go inside, you find blue lights glowing inside. What do you expect to find at the end of this?
I expect to find a devious gnome practicing his craft while bewitching small animals. His goal is to get them to take all of their foraged nuts and berries and hoard them for himself, because he's a douche.
And they're all named Dave.
Hey now, don't be smirched in the name Dave.
You know what? Dave sucks.
He's just putting it out there. So all Daves, Mal thinks you suck. So
Bring it on, army of Daves.
But just as a heads up to the Daves out there, if you're named Dave, go to Famous Dave's. They'll treat you right.
Wow.
Did he just whore?
I think he just whored.
I made a bad situation good. That's what I did. I didn't whore. I made it out Daves because the Daves were just put down. I put them up.
All right.
You know where else you could get put up for the evening? Super 8.
Oh God.
We're not
But
affiliated
they
with
won't
any
leave
of the products we've just mentioned.
The only problem is they won't leave the light on for you. Really? I am the only one who got that one?
No, I got it. I just didn't want it.
I threw it away. I have a trash can. It's gone.
Oh. God, I feel
But we're falling off subject again. This train is derailing very quickly.
The train has never been on the rails since episode 1. I don't know what you're thinking. But, fine. For your sensitive nature, we will get back on track. I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure Peaches over there is feeling it, but I don't know. I'm feeling kind of magical today. How about you guys?
Oh, the morning. Always magical.
Peaches is a little under-schooled, we shall say, on the magical arts, but she does like the entertainment. Oh, I mean he. Oh, I'm so sorry. I tend to confuse myself sometimes.
Uh-oh. We might need to change this episode up, and it's just one of those little what's the word?
Put up a trigger warning.
A trigger warning? I mean, Peaches is having an identity crisis, and we might need to have, like a meeting, gather all of his friends and family around. We're worried about you.
I mean, hell, I gotta have a meeting. At this point, it's gonna be an AA meeting. Jesus.
And you're allergic to alcohol.
I know! That's a problem!
But if you didn't catch the reference, this is all about magic. Our love, our hate, our meh about magic. Anybody have any news or anything they want to do before we get on this topic?
I couldn't find much that I really cared about. That makes me a terrible person.
Well, since we're not shamelessly whoring ourselves so much anymore, I don't have anything, because that was my one thing. That was my one thing, Mal.
Now you've got nothing. You're just going to sit there in silence, just missing out on so many chances to whore myself out.
I mean, out there...
My one whore for the evening. Sorry.
Oh, God.
If you want to support DMs and Dicebags, you can fill this open air right now with your plug. And there will be plenty of moments during this episode and many other episodes to come where you can fill the dead air. Don't you want to fill the dead air? We want you to fill the dead air.
There we go. Whoring out of the way, on to the magic. Because I've played 3.5, I played 5, I've looked at 4, and one of my neighbors around here has a second edition book, and it's kind of weird. It's kind of weird and wild to see how the magic of, you know, at least just D&D has evolved over the time. Do you guys remember like some of the flavor text for some of the spells back in the day? In like 3.4.
Spells had flavor text?
Yeah, where you know the description text, like what it did.
Oh.
I remember more of the ridiculous naming schemes that they had.
Okay, the 5 is definitely up there with some of that shit. Was it Leomen's Magical Hut, Mordecai's Magnificent Mansion? Things like that.
Odaloo's Acid Sphere or something.
Yeah.
Pray for alliteration.
Yeah.
Bigby's hand!
But, like, in a lot of things, let me bring up the some of the spells in 3.5 compared to the one, damage-wise, they've upped the damage on these spells a hell of a lot, if you've noticed. Like...
They have? They have.
Yeah, let me go to... Okay, that's homebrew. Why do I want homebrew? I don't want homebrew. Homebrew sucks.
While he finds that, I'm going to talk about why I like 5th edition spells the most. The reason I like 5th edition spells is the cantrips are useful. That's about it.
That's it. That's the reasoning.
You're not wrong.
I like
always
that
throw
it's easier
fireball.
to actually hit with spells.
True that.
Well, I'm trying to find some spells on here, but I'm keep getting, like, homebrew shit, and I don't like homebrew shit. Here we go, maybe something here. Yeah, we'll go back to what Bleak was talking about in the cantrips. I will go with, I'll just go with what I'm normally used to. My bard spells. I'm looking at the bard spells. I have nothing as far as anything that I could actually use. Even like this, Mage Hand. In 3.5, Mage Hand was a 5-pound limit. And you could only move or propel an object as far as 15 feet. Mage Hand now is... you can use your action to control the hand. You can use the hand to manipulate an object, open an unlocked door, stow or retrieve an item from an open container, or pour the contents out of a vial. And I can move the hand up to 30 feet. The range on Mage Hand now is 40 feet or 30 feet. Before, it was only close. 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 levels you have of a spell casting thing. And you can only do an object weighing up to 5 pounds. Like, they've doubled the speed. They've doubled the thing. Even in the hit dice, when it came time for actual, like, destruction magic. Everything had, was a lot less. But as I'm reading through some of these, spells here, they were really restrictive on, they were really, precise on what the spells did, and there was really no leniency when it came to spells, whether it be combat or non-combat spells. I've noticed a lot in 5th edition that they kind of leave it, a lot of it's left up to the DM, which, I've noticed that in a lot of things, reading, the DM manual and reading of course, the player's handbook. They have put pretty much 80% of the power into the DM and what he's willing, or he or she is willing to allow. And it kind of brings up my first question, as a DM, how would you handle creative uses of magic? And as a player, what creative uses of magic have you actually been able to pull off in game? Who wants to go first?
The newbie.
The creative magics that I've had to deal with and the ones that I've used.
Yeah. Has anybody as a DM, has anybody come up with an idea or a creative use of a spell, whether it be combat or non-combat, that you're like, oh shit, I didn't think of actually that being a possibility. You have something set up, and you have the encounter, you have everything, whether it be non-combat or combat, and somebody just happens to have a spell loaded that totally F's your entire system up. And you kind of have to go back onto the fly. kind of thing. Has that ever happened to you? And as you're, from one side of the screen to the other?
My mind instantly flies to a character that Drew knows well. Franti, the lovely, lovable gnome.
Episode 1's coming back to haunt us, guys.
I think episode 1's going to haunt us for the rest of our life. But go on.
Well, I mean, as was previously mentioned in episode 1, Drew's use of Franti in transforming himself to take out that dragon was definitely a unique experience, one that I was not expecting. But
Dude, would you like to recount it for the audience? I'm sure they'd like to hear it again. I mean, on the other side of the screen, I really wonder how that felt. Just let us experience it from your side.
there were many chuckles being had on the other side of the screen, because one does not expect the gnome wizard to transform himself and inserts himself rectally inside said dragon to destroy it.
That was a good day.
It was effective.
I never did find out if that thing was a bad guy or a good guy.
Well, it was irritable, leaning on the side of bad, so you did a good thing in an odd way.
Are you having a hard time? Are you having flashbacks?
We're all having flashbacks to Franti.
It's just an interesting. It was just an interesting experience all around on that one. But in terms of I think that's the largest one that sticks out in my mind, though.
But now, have you pulled any fast ones on a DM using magic?
Well, for me, it's kind of a harder thing, because, I mean, most of my player characters are up close and personal fighter sort of characters. Occasionally do range, so magic is something I've only skimmed the surface on.
I know what your next character is.
It better not be a bard.
I thought you wanted us all to be bards.
That's for a different thing. That has to be flushed out still. Plus, I think it would.
Fleshed out. Flushed out.
Well, it depends on how everything happens. But
depends.
Bleak, how about you? I mean, you've DM'd for quite a while, and of course, you've also played a lot. Variety of characters, minus the gnome. Has there been any time, other than that, magic-wise, that you've pulled a fast one on the DM, or have had magic, someone do some sort of magical shit and throw you off?
There's been plenty of times where every player has done a crazy thing with magic that I didn't expect, and I just had to roll with it. So I'm kind of used to players trying to do crazy things with spells.
But I mean, and I do have a follow-up question for that. If somebody came up with something, would you, depending on the campaign, of course, how willing are you as a DM to allow the crazy magic shit?
Well, for that question, the answer would be, it really depends on, 1, how creative it is. 2, if it fits with the narrative, I mean, that's always a good thing. And 3, if it's far beyond what the spell is capable of doing, then I might not allow it.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying,
For instance, All-Star really likes to push the limits of create illusion, and I normally allow it because it's just more for comic relief, but it doesn't do as much as you want it to do. It's
No,
very small, very minimal.
I use minor illusion as more of the roleplay aspect. You like, because there's really nothing I can do in combat for it. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could, but it's only going to distract him for a round. You know, when I use minor illusion, it's more of just, you know, a whim, something funny, something that, you know, entertains people, but it's more for the roleplay aspect. Like, where do you, you know, crossing the line? But like you said, I push the boundaries because I have to. I have to try to outthink you, because if I can do something, you know, I can get it. You know, I'm not saying like, oh, I get advantage on this roll, but if I can throw the direction of the campaign if shit's going bad, whether it be in non-combat or in combat, and I can pull a janky magical, you know, shit spill out of my ass, then, you know, that's all more better, and, you know, we roleplay more.
True. But to really answer who threw me for the most recent loop was the, I'm gonna see if I can friend the rock, and it worked. So thanks, Bert, for being a very interesting character that was just friendly to a giant bird and got its help for that session. I was not expecting that. One, I didn't know the spell did that. And two, it's like, that's like a high challenge rating creature. You know? You could have done a lot with that.
Well, I tried to get on it, but then it threw me off, so.
Well,
At most,
there's
he
a
was.
little bit of DM interference there.
At most, he was only thing he was gonna do was Lord of the Rings it. It's just the big giant powerful bird brings him to a spot and then leaves. He was he was basically just gonna Lord of the Rings it.
I was gonna try and catch up, basically. Fly, you fools!
All right. Now,
As for what I've done, the gnome is one of my best ones just because it's such a.
well, it's memorable.
It's very memorable, and I definitely really thought out of the box for that one. And I just wanted to make this creepy little gnome guy extremely creepy and little. But I guess this isn't really my special use of the spell, but I'm sure I heard about it, and I just want to reiterate, I thought it was a really cool idea, where a DM has this powerful wizard with like this ring of control element attacking a town, or control elementals attacking a town, and then the spell thief rogue pickpockets the ring off the guy's hand with mage hand at a distance. I just thought that's like, whoa, that's crazy using that spell to do that. So that's one I would say would throw any DM for a loop, and I'm still gonna make that character someday just to try it myself. But,
Spud, anything on your end?
Unfortunately, all the crazy stuff that's really happened. I mean, like, even what I have, no one's really come up with anything particular. There are a few campaigns that I did play in. Unfortunately, they weren't necessarily D&D, so it wasn't really magic. Shall I delve into it regardless, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, we were playing Aberrant, and there are many things that happened in Aberrant. But I was a person that could create portals. Like, I could create a portal from where I'm standing to the moon, and you know, I'll suck people out into space or whatever. And someone in my party, had control, I guess you could say control of temperature, because he could, he'd carry like these bottles of water around his waist pretty much at all times, because he could freeze them and do whatever you want with them. So we're fighting a big bad, and our DM at the time was having some troubles trying to make it a little bit more balanced for us. Until I opened up a portal above me facing our enemy, and the other part of the portal went to the bottom of the ocean. So this torrent of water just comes gushing out of the portal, and And the moment my ally realizes, he froze the water into a spear and just speared this guy. There was a kind of a big pause there as we all just kind of, oh, did this really just happen? So that kind of threw everything for a loop at then, and he had to kind of think about what he was going to do from there. So yeah, I'd say that's a pretty defining moment for throwing a pulling or whatever, a monkey wrench into the gears of the DM.
I always love doing that.
It feels like everyone's favorite thing to do, except for the DM.
Well, I mean, I've had ones like, since it's my turn, I have had somebody in a campaign that I ran up here at work. And this wasn't the all zombie campaign. This was I don't think it was the elemental campaign either, but somebody wanted to. He had one of the enemies had fallen into a pit, and there was water in it, and so he wasn't, it would taken him a long time, at least 3 rounds to get out. Basically, the wizard used Tensor's floating disc, and then just pinned him into the water and drowned him, because he can't lift it. So he just held the Tensor's floating disc underwater, because it says, maintains a constant interval of 5 feet between itself and you. It winks on a thing. It has to be more than 3 feet away from the surface beneath it. So, and this is back in 3.5, of course. And yeah, he just drowned his ass, and it was just a minor thing. And it was basically the whole plan was to give them a round or two to kind of get their shit together, and then go back to fighting, because he was going to come back up even more pissed off, and then really use his 4th and 5th level spells. But nope, I'm just gonna pin this dude under for an hour until he stops moving. Totally threw me for a loop, and I was like, well, yeah, after an hour goes through, because I think it was 3 hours, because he was a 3rd level wizard or something, and I was trying to kill them. And it's after 3 hours, the disc dissipates, and you look down, and he's just floating. He's already evacuated his bowels. He is dead. And it's not, floating disc is not anything. It's just like a little mini escape, or sometimes used as a shield. I've used that before as a shield in people's campaigns. Just I'm gonna hide behind the disc. And yeah, it does give me some obstruction. Drew, I think I was playing one of your campaigns at that time. I think it might have.
I feel like my name is getting used a little too much in this one.
Well, that's the first time I've used it, so. But.
I'm not blaming our Alcipher guest.
But.
Did I say it?
You said it
yes,
twice.
Yes, you did.
I apologize, Bleak.
But I would say the best one that I have used, and I can only take half credit because it was Bleak that gave me the idea. It was the 2-group campaign when we were trying to get to the top of the tower. You and I had been talking a couple weeks before that about something you'd seen on I don't know if somebody Anthony was playing or what, but somebody had used Ray of Frost, Create Water, and Gust of Wind, and basically made flying ice shards. Do you remember that?
Nope.
You had put us, and it was the other group was ahead of us at the time, and this was a little before the giant construct that we fought. And it was me, Weston, Paul, Bob, and I think Ben. And I think I was a cleric, Bob was a wizard, and I think somebody had multi-classed into something. No, it was a sorcerer, or 2 sorcerers, and a cleric. I had used Create Water, and we had all combined our efforts. I was like, all right. And I talked to these guys because you had told us to take a break because you were going to focus on the other group. So we were all talking outside while we were having a smoke, and I said, whenever we get into a room where there's a bunch of multiple enemies, Drew told me this once, and I want to pull it off on him. Create or use when you or create gust of wind. I think I was pointing to Paul's character. I will create water, and then Bob will do ray of frost. Try to combine all the spells, and we took like entire room of like orcs out ahead of that, and I think that was about the most creative that we've done. But that was like that was a true team effort.
That was cool. I don't remember it at all.
The only reason why I remember is because you told me about it like a week or two before we even played that session, and I don't know why, but it just all happened to come together, and you were like, well, and then you were like flipping through pages and you're rolling dice, like roll. I think you told me like roll 8d6s, and or somebody rolled like 8d6s or whatever, and they were all minions, so they were just one-hit wonders. But we obliterated that room, and I thought that was so cool. But
yeah, good use of spells there.
Yeah, yeah, that's my question. I love using magic creatively, and my bard gives me some use of that, considering I have nothing. But
well, I mean, when it comes to spells, I think the most creative use is when they're combined with other spells, so you need someone else's casting spells.
Yeah.
That's when you throw the biggest loop in, that people will find that they come across.
And then there's other hands like Bleak and his gnome, where it's just he's the one-man band in that sort of magical instance, and he just wrecks. And that's because you can use. I was looking at some forums today, and I had found somebody who had asked a question about using a magic spell, in 5th edition, and nobody gave a definitive answer. But here's that kind of a question. If you were to use the spell Gaseous Form and turn yourself into just a complete gaseous form, how would you three, if you were the DM, handle the situation if, say, I use Gaseous Form and then try to jump into somebody's body and then dissolve the spell, where I'm basically forming inside their body?
They had rules on this back in the day.
Back in the day, but see, this goes back to what I was talking about beforehand. 5th edition now leaves a lot of that rule text to the DM.
My thought would be, well, if it's a tough one, because if for comedy's sake, it'd be really fun for you just to burst out of the guy. But I think for the sake of keeping the rules intact, I would just say you wouldn't be able to dissipate the spell unless your space is empty. But that's my answer to that.
Alcipher?
I think I would probably have it do like partial for simple lack of space, because if you become a gas, said individual can only take so much into their lungs. I would say you could like reform with, like, say your arm down inside their like innards. You could like basically wreck their insides if you wanted with your hand at that point.
Well, let me see here. What exactly, like how much? It doesn't say. It says you're only to move it of flying is 10 feet. The target can enter and occupy the space of another creature. The target has resistance to non-magical damage, and it has advantage on strength, dex, and con saving throws. But the part of the text is the target can pass through small holes, narrow openings, and even mere cracks, though it treats liquid as though they were solid surfaces. And it cannot fall and remains hovering in the air when stunned or otherwise incapacitated. Like you can't attack with it, but would that even be considered an attack? It's just I'm moving into this dude's body and then like that was the question that was posed.
I'll rule that you would have to, be together in as far as a gas to actually be able to reform. So if you were trying to reform inside of a body, you would be expelled beforehand to actually reform.
See, as long as it never, if it was me on the end of the DM screen, if it was not, if it wasn't going to be used like constantly, like it's, you know, your trope card, you know, your trump card. Oh, I turn into gaseous forward, jump in his body, boom. Like if it was like a one-off thing, me, I'm good for, you know, thinking creatively and trying to, you know, outthink me as a DM. As long as it didn't get out of hand and be used all the time, I think the first time I'd fucking allow it. I would say the guy has a will save or a fortitude save to try to hold his body together and try to expel the gas. And if he fails, then poof, kind of thing.
Well, then by that same token, then the person that would be trying to reform inside the body, they would need a Constitution save in order to reform inside the body without being injured by the body itself.
Oh, I'm assuming, you know, because I mean, at least in 5th edition, like Dimension Door, you can teleport up to like 30 or like 100 feet away or something like that. And if somebody occupying it, you take 4d6 damage. Now that I'd probably incorporate that. Like if you failed the save, you'd get expelled and take the damage. Like it's more of a risk. I would call it like more of a risk reward thing. Like if, you know, all the stars aligned and he failed his save and you succeeded on your save, yeah, I would say at least for that one time, poof, he explodes into bloody chunks. Because people are going to remember that in the same way with Bleak shapeshifting up the hoo-hoo. So, I mean...
It was an anus. It wasn't a hoo-hoo. It was an anus.
Yes, we all know that. But
it was an anus.
I'm glad that you're really trying to lay down that emphasis on that, no, it was this. But semantics.
Well,
in the same way...
The only real experience I've personally had with gaseous form is a bard that would just fly away and sing because they were feeling useless.
I'm looking at the miniature for that campaign right now.
But, you know, I'm out of questions though. But, you know, that was just kind of the things like I've been looking at a lot of stuff about using magic in creative ways, and I'd like to, you know, I always kind of wanted to know how you guys, you know, out of campaign, out of game, since none of us are playing right now, that's tomorrow, you know, how you guys would handle certain situations where somebody can't, you know, tried to be janky with their magic.
I will actively encourage players to be creative or to think around me, because that gives me more exercise as to think it more, you know, to think on the spot. It's like, oh, well, they did this, so this is what happens.
And I think it would, you know, on the other
side, encourage it, very much so.
Yeah, you know, I think on the other side of that screen that, you know, it would engage the player more to try to think outside the box, really try to use what they have instead of just firebolt, magic missile. You know, you know, because you get more than just those spells. Yeah, those are your main damage spells until you get to higher levels, but you have all those slots, you know. I've always been one where, you know, I want to have, if I'm going to have a certain number of spells, per, you know, slots per spell level and all that, I want to try to use, you know, get things that I can use all the, you know, not necessarily all the time, but have enough spells in my pocket that, you know, could be used in any you know, could be used in a plethora of situations. Bleak, how about you?
What was the question again?
Like, do you encourage, you know, like, do you encourage using, you know, trying to do creative, janky ways? You know, not just necessarily with me and my, you know, minor illusion, just, you know, making the sound of a crying baby somewhere, or, you know, making a picture out of my, you know, making a picture out of my hand and shit like that. You know, yeah, that's creative and that's more of the role play aspect, but I mean, and just not just things in combat.
Well, we've really haven't, besides you, anyone that specializes out of combat. So I haven't really had the chance of having to deal with someone that doesn't just throw spells at enemies constantly.
But I mean,
or heal constantly.
even in like 3.5 or in the games that you've played, like when you choose a spell class, how do you just go damage spells, or do you try to think outside the box? Like, well, I mean, I can't really use this spell in this, in a combat situation, but if this scenario played out, or I could get this scenario to lead this way, I could really do some crazy shit with this kind of spell. Like,
That kind of situation really depends on the DM you're having, though.
I was thinking the same thing, because sometimes you can have all these really creative spells. Can't do shit.
Well, like there's spells like comprehend languages, or I don't remember the spell off the top of my head, but there's one that allows you to read anything, or like read runes, or make a magic rune. You gotta have the DM that will actually implement that kind of stuff to, for people to make use of them. So it really boils down to the DM actually running that kind of campaign.
okay. I like all those answers. I am out of questions. Next host.
That'd be you, Spud.
So by saying next, of course that means me.
Yup.
All right. Well, I don't really hate mini spells. In fact, I can't really think of mini spells that I actually do hate. Yeah, I can't really think of any. I mean, some are kind of funny, some are kind of useless, but I can't really say I outright hate them. Are there any spells that you guys particularly hate?
What about you, guest?
I'm not sure if there's any spells I really hate. I mean,
even ones that like irritate you, like you have this encounter going and somebody casts a spell and it really kind of breaks the flow of what's going on, kind of thing. Something like that, like just something like a mild irritant.
You mean Fallstar's character?
I don't have much as far as like what I can mock you. That's all I really have. Vicious mockery. The enemy, if they don't make the will save, has disadvantage on the next attack roll. What else can I do?
You can swing that little rapier that you used twice.
Yeah, and I'm gonna trade it in for a hand crossbow so I don't have to get up front. Because I'm not the front. That's kind of the plan. I looked on the thing.
You still get shot.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still going to get hit because everybody wants to hurt the bard. They're the ones that promote happiness and joy. Nope, can't have that. Shoot them.
I don't think it's that everybody wants to hurt the bard. I think it's more of, hey, this guy's talking an awful lot. Or, hey, this guy seems to have a big mouth. Let's kill him.
Well, that's who I am in real life. Nobody wants to kill me that I know of in real life.
That you know of.
That I know of. But, I mean, keep going there, Alcipher.
well, I mean, all these spells have their own uses and stuff. I mean, it all depends on context. I mean, as you said,
is there a spell that really gets you going that you just don't like, or like you don't understand why it's even there?
Well, now I'm just thinking about your Tensor's floating disc story. I mean, it's a handy spell, but in that instance, it can be a very frustrating thing to have. It's all contextual.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say I didn't like it. It was just, I've used Tensor's floating disc, but never in that kind of a way. And I never thought like, I'm just gonna drown somebody with a 100-pound disc, and just force it on him 3 feet off the ground inside this like thing of water, and he just drowns. That totally threw me for a loop. I didn't hate it though. I was more, but again, it was like a mild irritant. But, yeah, I thought it was a great use of a non-combat spell.
I guess for me, any spell that has way too much utility bugs me, I think. Something that you can do too much with. I'm trying to narrow it down, but Tensor's one. like he's used it as a shield, used it to drown somebody, you can lift stuff, you can use it to cross a gap. That's a lot of utility, and one spell I don't think should have that much utility.
I'm looking right
That's
now.
the only spells I really don't like, is the ones that you just have way too many options. So it's like 5 or 6 different spells in one spell.
Well, I believe druids get something like druid craft, and then there's thaumaturgy. I believe they do multiple things, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
They do, but they're really minor, which I'm okay with that, but, you know. Any like the higher level spells that can actually last a certain amount of time and actually do stuff, yeah, those ones are the ones that are, yeah, I don't know about that. But it all depends on the campaign, who's DMing, and what the real, like, effect is going to happen is. Like, if it happens every time, all the time, and they're always looking for a creative way to use that spell, that kind of does annoy me a little bit.
But isn't that like the kind of the goal of the player to use what they have?
It is, but if they use it constantly, it more becomes I don't know, a poison to the flow of the campaign. Because you're always trying to find a way around something. I mean, always. Like, you don't even, like, consider, like, there's normal ways. You're like, I'm going to do something really crazy. It hurts the narrative, I think. It's hard to, like, actually tell a story when your characters are, most of the time, trying to just do crazy things and see what happens. But that's why I'm like, something with a little less utility is better.
All right. Guess it means it's my turn.
Yeah.
Most of my problems come from 5th edition, or not 5th edition, but 3rd edition or 3.5, because this is my real first spellcaster in 5th edition. You know, I played a fighter the last time. I do have Old Man Bones, but he's just a damage monkey. You know, he's just a damage monkey. But one thing that kind of bothered me in 3.5 was the summon spells, like summon elemental.
God.
Like, to me,
I forgot all about those.
It was kind of a pain in the ass. Well, it's a kind of a pain in the ass. Let me bring up summon elemental. You know, because it pretty much, unless you know you're going into combat, you pretty much have no use for it. And you have to complete the whole frickin', concentration check. After that, if you fail, you never get it back, and it's just a wild elemental until the spell goes out. But it takes a full minute. You know, in combat, that's what, 6 rounds? That takes a full... 10. Okay, 10 rounds. You know, that's 10 rounds of you just sitting there. I'm waiting, guys. Give me a second. Keep going, and then you finally get it, and it lasts for an hour. You can't really do anything out of combat in a time of an hour, and there's no real point there's no real point to having it, even as a summoner class, or, prestige or anything like that, unless you can get to a high enough level or some sort of magic item that reduces the casting time. You can't really use it in a fight unless you know, alright, like, if this was 3.5 and we're playing Bleak's campaign with the siege going on, that would be something, okay, it's like, I'd wait till they get, once I configure they're about, a minute away from the thing, then I, work on summoning it, and then I have them for an hour. But unless you have that knowing that this is going to happen in this amount of time, this spell's practically freaking useless. And,
well, you can always bring it into a dungeon or something.
But how many dungeons have you played where you get to the boss in an hour? Within an hour, where it's enough time where the elemental can do something.
Well, that depends on the kind of thing that you summon. I view summoning or what have you as more of a utility. Like there was an example that we had. I had a cleric that couldn't swim up a stream of heavy flowing water. Everybody else made it up just fine. What did he do? He used summon animal and called forth a dolphin. He held on the dolphin and swam him right up.
Okay, yeah, summon animal has some things, but
Yeah. So I mean, like, but animals can have like the different abilities that they have. You would use an animal more for the ability, whereas the summon elementals is that if you go in, again, it depends on heavily on the campaign that you're playing. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you. I think those spells were pretty much a load of crap.
mm-hmm.
But they did have their usefulness depending on the campaign itself.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a big, situational thing. 'Cause, I mean, I've always, and because I've played Magic Casters in 3.5, I've always looked at it, especially when, one of the sessions that we were playing at Aiden's house, I talked to Bleak about being a bard. That was my very first thing, and he's like, "No, don't do it. You don't get anything until like level 6." In 3.5, and that totally turned me off on the bard, because I'm like, oh yeah, I can summon extra planar, I can summon, I can do summoning stuff. And as and I think I played actually I think I might have just straight up played a fighter or a barbarian in that campaign. But as we're playing, I'm noticing, I'm like, Bleak's right. There is no use for this summon shit. A, in the flow of the campaign. B, in the way that we're actually, going into combat, experiencing encounters, things like that. There was nothing that I could have really used summon spells with. But
that all comes down to the campaign type, though, too.
Like, I can see maybe in a gladiatorial setting, like, oh, it's you against you. You have 10 minutes to prepare, and then you fight. Yeah, I summon an earth elemental or a fire elemental in that time, and then bingo, something like that. But unless you have,
but they're also very specific to the campaign itself. I mean, you can't just throw them into any campaign. It's got to be campaign kind of built around where you can throw this thing right in there.
Yeah. But I mean, generally the DM's always, already got the campaign idea in his head or her head before, people decide on what they want to play. Like, I'm pretty sure Bleak can attest when, before we started this campaign, you pretty much knew a lot of the stuff what was going to happen. Not so much what's going to happen, but locations, how encounters are going to be, things like that, way before we even had a character set up.
Kinda. The enemies and stuff were all based on what you guys were. The places and story and like all that was way fleshed out way before the campaign started. Like, I know what tiers of things are happening, I know what's gonna happen next, but like story-wise, and depending on what you guys do, there's alternate options for these story paths, but every enemy that I've sent against you is more like, well, how well did they do this session? Do I need to ramp up the enemies? Do I need to do this? And that's how I adjust for the next session. And continue and continue and continue. And slowly now I'm learning what your characters are good against and what you guys are bad against. So I always throw a little monkey wrench into your plan every time, just to keep things fresh.
Yeah. Well, everybody gave their answer, so I guess, Bleak, it's your question. Since you were the last one to speak.
I suppose, but how come you get 3 questions and Spud only gets 1? I'm just wondering on that.
They just pop into my head, man. I work on the fly. I play my bard in real life, I'm loud, I'm talkative, shit just pops into my head and I go with it.
Malstar. You're Malstar in real life. Well, I guess my question is more of like 2 questions wrapped into one. Is, in general, how do you guys feel about magic in campaigns in general? Have you done a non-magic campaign? Would you want to do a no-magic campaign? Do you want to do solid magic campaigns? Like, how do you guys feel about magic in general? And then along those same lines, do you feel like D&D captures magic the right way, or do you think it's lacking? Do you think it's not quite magical enough? Al, you can answer first.
All right. As for like having magic out of campaign or magic only campaigns, I think that would be an interesting thing to go about, actually. Because I have tried spellcasters. I'm not terribly good with them, but I'd be willing to keep it going. I think it would add an interesting dynamic. You'd have to... I think it'd be a little bit more interesting because you'd have to really kind of organize yourselves between, like, do I want to get spells to bolster my defense a little bit so I can take a couple hits? Do I want to be a nice long range caster? Do I want to summon? You know, that's all, well, standard spell casting knowledge, absolutely, but when you're working in a team aspect, you can really divide it up like that, and there's many different varies in the magic that can really flow with that. I think it'd be kind of a fun thing to try.
I feel like D&D captures the essence of magic, or do you think it's still lacking?
I feel it does a decent job capturing the whole spirited essence of magic, the flow. I mean, there are some things that pop into my mind just from like little animes and stuff. It's like, oh, that would be cool to do, but that's just, you know, me being nerdy.
Yeah, but stuff like that, if it's simple enough in said anime world, then why can't it be simple enough to do in D&D? I always feel like D&D's lacking on that. Like, it just needs a little bit more to its magic. Like, they still haven't fully fleshed it out, I don't think. But
yeah, because I mean, like, when you talked about, like, in this question, you know, basically a magic user only kind of thing, it brought the anime Fairy Tale to my mind, and just like, oh, that'd be kind of interesting to see how we could kind of portray that sort of environment in a D&D setting, where we each kind of specialize in one, like, area, like one specific kind of magic like that, and then just use it to the best of our abilities and our imaginations to get us through. Kind of personal adaptation.
that could be a pretty fun campaign. Any other thoughts on just like magic in general? Do you like it? Do you hate it?
I think it's fun. I'm not too great with it. I should probably try to get better with it. But I think it's a good thing to have overall. It's interesting. It's fun. I like featherball.
We're gonna jump to Spud probably next because I know Mal's gonna take up another 20 minutes with his answer.
Damn right. Oh, you know me so well. I feel loved.
Alright, so let's knock these questions down one by one. What was the first one? I remember the last one, but what was the first one?
Well, the first one is, how do you feel about magic in a campaign, like in the general, and then like more in depth of like, how do you feel of it as like a solid campaign idea, like the whole world's super magical or no magic at all, like, and then just kind of your thoughts on that whole like, does D&D capture magic properly? Is there a better way that you would think of doing it, and many options beyond that for questions there. So here's some answers.
Well, to start with, it goes back to what I've been saying pretty much the entire time. It really goes back to the DM. The campaign that he's running, she's running, what have you. Do they, like, the world that they built, does it fit right? Does everything work in this magical world? Is everything explained properly through magic and non-magic means? Is magic a rarity? Do they explain it well? It just really, really revolves around the DM a lot and how they set up the campaign.
What's your preference?
Well, see, that's the thing. If I can get involved in their world, then it doesn't matter. Like a situation where things are rare, it's like, Well, okay, that's one. That means I'm one of the few, or I'm protecting one of the few, or I'm fighting one of the few. I mean, if it's built right, it can be a lot of fun, or it can suck if they just didn't do it right. Well, and then in that Magic Heavy world, it's like, okay, well, I'm one of these people, but can I make something more of myself? Will this DM allow me to find the track where I can be something more than just a person that wields magic? Can I be something more than just Mercenary 005? You know? And I know it sounds a bit like a cop-out for the entire thing, but it really, really depends on the world that was built. And as far as how D&D is doing magic, they're doing it right by them, but I don't think it's the only way. This is why I like, to explore other systems and, find out how other people are doing all these kind of different things, because there are so many different ways to portray magic. Like, how is it? Okay, so basically like the way D&D does it. You exhaust your spells for the day, and you don't have time to rest or to go into the next encounter or whatever. Are you physically exhausted? Are you just mentally exhausted? Well, by D&D standards, you're just out of spells and you have to move on. I mean, like, that's one way to portray. You gathered up all your spells inside of you, and you don't have time to prepare anymore, so you have all your spell components there, then you move on. Whereas another way to portray magic is to, as you cast spells, your body becomes more and more fatigued. And, that's just one of many ways to portray it. So, I think they did a system that was all right, but I like to look at a bunch of different things and try each different ones. Do I have a favorite? I don't know.
If Aberrant used magic, would that system feel a little more... I just feel like D&D's magic doesn't flow quite right. It still is not quite there, but is there any other system that stands out to you?
Well, Aberrant doesn't really use magic per se, since it's more inherent on your abilities, and you're basically given a mana pool, and once that's drained, well, can't expend it for anything else, and you're basically held back as to the things you can do, barring like a few things here and there. But I don't know. I like to see some systems where you become more exhausted as you cast your spells, or like it physically takes a toll on your body, or to explain it by, all right, instead of gathering all inside of you after one rest, I'd like to see a system that is like you gather it in and you cast, and then that's how you're getting exhausted, because each time you cast a spell, you have to gather it in you and then cast it. Whereas just conjuring it up from, within you. So, I don't know.
Is it my turn?
Well, I guess it is.
What was the first question? I like hearing it again, so that, because I have an answer, I just, how I rant. So, what's the first part of the question?
Yeah.
I already forgot, so you're just gonna have to rant.
Oh, but it's good for the listeners.
About like magic as a whole, like an all magic campaign and all thing, no magic campaign. I think magic definitely has a place in tabletop RPGs, whether it be in D&D or modern or Aberrant or something like that. It depends. Like going on what Spud is saying, it all depends on the campaign, the DM, things like that. An all or spellcasting campaign, I think it would have done a lot better in 3.5, especially with the expanded the expanded books. I've played War Mages, I've played a Hexblade. Those were really fun. But my answer is basically combining both questions. I don't think magic in D&D is where it could be. I like the idea how, I mean, it kind of goes into what Spud was saying and what you have been saying, Bleak, I think it was an episode or two ago, a mana pool. You know, have something like that. You know, where, a cantrip doesn't, hardly takes any mana, but a 4th level spell is going to really put a, kind of strain on what you have for mana, and after so many rounds, some mana kind of, you regain a little mana, especially, going back to a lot of old RPG video games, where you will just slowly over time regain your mana, but in a combat situation, taking a turn and popping a mana potion and being able to have that, you're more useful than I feel nowadays, because if you don't have spells, you're, as a wizard or, a warlock or a sorcerer, you're boned. You're basic. Once you run out of spells, if an encounter ever gets to a point where you run out of spells, the party has not dealt with the encounter the way they should, right. They haven't.
Well,
go on.
To add on to that, though, they have fixed it a little bit, so now you can cast cantrips as many times as you want, and some of them deal a decent amount of damage.
Oh, yeah.
Continue.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I can cast Vicious Mockery as much as I want. I know, like, Firebolt, you can cast as many times as you want. But I still think somewhat of a mana system where it's not so much you need the components, because I know in 5th edition they fixed that with you can use your spell focus. Like in my case with the Bard, I have my lute. In Weston's case, in the previous thing, he had a orb from his god. Being able to get around that where you don't necessarily need a pouch of salt and some leaves and a twig, because carrying all those components is gonna, eventually just get very encumbersome. It doesn't look like a lot, but eventually all that shit adds up. As far as did I think they've done it right? Yes and no. I think 3.5 did it a little better when it came to mixing a spell sword, where, it wasn't just, I'm the wizard, I'm the one in the robe, and I stand in the back and don't let anybody hit me. Where the war mage is like, I can cast a spell, I can cast a few, a heal if I need to, or I can cast a magic missile, but then I can also hit you in the face with a hammer. Being able to have that kind of split, that duality of, in the further back, but if I need to, I can get up front, or, vice versa. That gives the player more playground, basically more room to play around with. I don't know if 5th edition is going to come out with any expanded books, like an expanded sorcerer, the true necromancer book, things like that. I don't know if they're going to.
I don't think they're going to.
Which is fine. I'm not going to argue with it, because that's what they want to do. But I think there should. I liked how 3.5 did it, but they also did it a little wrong, because there was so many spells in that other book that it was really hard to prepare. Like, okay, well, I need 10 spell slots. All right, okay, I take 2 from this book, 2 from that book, a couple from here. That's where it gets confusing. I would like to see, and it doesn't even need to be the mana system, but I would like to see a book just of spells, an expanded spell list for every class, where everything is jotted down, everything's in one book, less confusion, less like, oh, okay, I want to cast, what was it, Cone of Cold or something like that. It wasn't necessarily Ray of Frost, but I know in the expanded book in 3.5, my War Mage, I had a Cone of Cold. And then I took a meta magic feat from the original player's handbook and just made it a 90-foot wide, Cone of Cold. But he had to go back, the DM had to go back in this book to look at that text to see if it will work with this one. It got very confusing, and it really halted play because of that. Sure, I was having fun because I was, doing some cool shit, but it did really slow down the real flow of the game. I would like to see an expanded book where it's just, you have one book, every spell that you'll ever need, or, for the DM to look at is in that book.
They had it
And
in 3.5 though. It was called Spell Compendium.
yes, see, I want to see something with 5th edition with doing that because, like, you know, some of the things don't really add up. Like, in first level, a first level bard compared to a first level sorcerer, the bard outweighs the sorcerer by like 4 or 5 spells, right off the bat. You know, they get an absurd amount of spells, especially if you're a lore bard. At 6th level, then I've got all the spells, especially, you know, because it goes 6th to 10th and then 14th to 18th level with the original magic secrets. That's just so many freaking spells to do. I think the sorcerer should have more because that's more their class. The bard's more of the...
Well, they get more casts is what they get.
Yeah, and I mean that there is a little bit of a trade-off, but I always felt like, you know, the sorcerer should be the one to cast, you know, more magic missiles, more evocation or conjuration. The bard should, you know, especially with, like, I have Vicious Mockery as my only cantrip of damage, unless I go to Thunderclap, which is from a different book.
Well, real quick, by playing devil's advocate, isn't the staple behind a mage to actually be really weak in the beginning, but then become absurdly strong later on?
Yeah, but how many times in a campaign have you seen a character hit past 6th level?
Plenty of times.
Like,
Depends on where you start.
yeah, I mean, if you start from level 1, you know, because, I mean, in the campaign that we're playing right now, we all started at level 3.
Well, because you guys made it to level 3 in the last one, so I just figured.
Yeah. I mean, if we would have started from level 1, this campaign would have been a hell of a lot different.
Y'all would have been dead.
Yeah, exactly, because, you know, there's not a lot of spells to go around. I mean, the bard has more utility spells, but I would like to see more of that. Like, 3.5 bard had no real attack spells as a cantrip or a first level spell. But they had the utility spells. They had utility spells up the ass. Looking at the list, because I study the list of the bard, because it's, you know, I always plan my next level. It's like, okay, if I can take this from here, and now that Bleak has said I can use the other book, that does give me, like, 5 extra spells I can look at. And I'm also looking at preparing for 6th level. It's a chore in itself trying to find out how my spells are, you know, how I'm going to prepare my spells for 6th level. It is a pain in the ass. Me, I enjoy doing it, but I can see the effort needing to go through that is a lot more difficult. I would like to see easier way of gaining spells. I know clerics, they can just replace, they can temporarily replace spells. Just like, you know what, I don't really want this spell right now. I'm going to use this power to replace this spell with another one I've already used. And bam, you know, there's more interchangeable spells, at least with the cleric side. I don't know about sorcerers or wizards or warlocks because I haven't really gotten a chance to play them yet. But...
So before we continue more, I just want to pose something to you personally, Mal.
Yep.
How's the recording going? Because mine didn't start.
Mine is going just fine.
Yeah, so for those of you guys don't know, I have had the worst luck when it comes to recording this podcast.
Or any other thing that we have ever done. You've had fucked up Pit People episodes, you have fucked up... Well, you really haven't fucked up on Dungeon Lords yet. But I mean, it has to deal with you. You're the one teleporting into trees. You're the one having problems with recording. It's always you!
I know, it's just really hilarious right now. I just looked to see if it was recording, and I'm like, I better double check, and bam, nothing. It's nothing recorded at all.
I'm at an hour and
your
12.
audio is okay.
I'm at an hour and 12 minutes, going about to be an hour and 13
if you
minutes.
want to fill this dead air that was brought to you by uselessness, please feel free to go on.
And if you feel like donating anything to Bleak to get his ass out of technological hell where he's no longer having technological problems with recording or audio or anything like that, drop us a line.
Yeah, I could use a new computer. He's really bad.
Well, I'm not, I don't think anybody's going to be like, Yeah, I got this Alienware laptop I don't use. Here you go. You know, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, you can keep your fingers crossed all you want. Maybe cast, wish spell, but I don't know. It has its ups and its downs. I would like to see less spell slot. I wouldn't mind the spell slots if there was more of a mana-based system where, because I can cast things and replace my spells. Like, I'm going to just cast Healing Word a bunch of times as a first, a second, and a third level spell. That's fine. But then I lose I lose all those other spells. I would like to be able to just be like, I'm going to take this turn, pop a mana potion. And then, next turn, I'm back in the game where I'm more useful to the party. That's basically my answer.
I think I'm going to incorporate that from now on.
Well, you can't do it in this campaign because we're already in Act 2.
Well, we do have a chance where I can rework some things, so I might change spellcasting around. Because I don't like the way it is right now. It doesn't feel right, but I'll work on that during the break.
All right. Alcipher, do you have a question? I know we kind of brought you in and be like, here, we're just pummeling you with questions, but do you have a magic-based question of your own?
Well,
see, it's your time to shine, Matt, and there's somebody in the background cheering for you.
Or hell, maybe
Thank
I don't know.
my adoring fan.
Hey, at least you got somebody cheering for you. We haven't heard any fucking response in the last 4 episodes.
Well, it actually goes back to the opposite of what Spud asked earlier about magic spells that you guys hate being incorporated. I was wondering if you guys had a personal favorite spell that you liked to use.
Oh god, I was hoping someone would ask that.
Because
your second one.
Because I really like the I do. It makes no sense, but I love the Featherfall spell. It's great. It just tickles me.
Of course it does.
Particularly-
Because he uses that spell in his alone time.
You can just
I don't
go
even
up
wanna
and
know.
down and up and down.
For those of you who are artists in the listening groups, please draw that.
Oh god. If you guys do, if you guys draw us something, if you draw Peaches being tickled with a feather as he's falling down on a bed, we will use that as the image of the next podcast. It'll be the thumbnail. It'll be everything.
All them peaches.
And do make Peaches a male, by the way.
Nope. You're having an identity crisis. The art is gonna have an identity crisis.
Okay. Go hog wild.
A single peach. It's not gonna be a human. It's going to be a what is it? Fruit. Oh, legit.
So
But the reason I was waiting for this question was because I just have a very, very quick and simple reply: wish.
That's a cop out.
I never.
No.
You never got to a level where you could cast Wish. Don't even lie.
No. I don't want to cast it. I want my players to cast it because I'm a dick.
So you're fucking dice bag.
Huh?
You're a dice bag.
I'm a potato.
And a dice bag.
You're a dice bag. You're a potato that sits in his little dice bag.
Yes, I am. But no, it's because I make sure wishes are specialized or phrased in a very specific way before I grant them. If they do not specify, I'll dick with them.
Like a good genie.
Absolutely.
Or Porunga. The Namek Dragon.
Oh, I can remember his name.
Oh, silly Bleak.
You didn't
Shane.
remember it either, did you?
I did. Just as Shenron is the one from Earth.
Yeah.
I know Shinron is, but I didn't know what.
I didn't know and I didn't care. Oh.
Isn't
This
Matt
episode's brought to you by DBZ Abridged.
Spud? I mean, what is it now? It's almost 8 o'clock. Isn't like it? You know, you're old. I mean, isn't like Matlock and bedtime for you now?
Okay, let me check my watch. Oh, fuck! I'm not on my watch.
So that's your answer is Wish?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I want players to cast that. In fact, I have given items to players that have Wish on it.
I will continue. I'll keep that in mind. The next time when you ever DM and I bring a bard in. No, I won't play any more bards. I got to try something new. I actually thought about maybe being a paladin or a monk. The next campaign.
My very first paladin
Yeah, and you spent it talking to a fucking zombie.
was a better conversation than you jerks.
Yeah, because you usually play ones that Bert do this or ding or fuck off. At least the paladin is. At least paladin
I
is.
have a wide range of characters. I'll have you know.
And none of
I'm
all of them only speak like 3-word sentences.
gonna interject here and supply my answer before I run out of time.
There's no time.
You're the time. My answer is the polymorph spell. I love that spell. Being able to turn into whatever you want, that is always fun. That's it.
I don't really have a favorite spell in 5th edition. I like Vicious Mockery and Dissonant Whispers because it's like what I can do. But as far as 3rd or 3.5, my favorite spell to use, and I've used it a couple times. Actually, I've used it quite a bit of times. Usually trying to do janky shit. And it's not even a very powerful one. Animate Rope. I love Animate Rope. I have done so many crazy shit with Animate Rope. I love it. I've seen it done. I've seen people like, oh, I'm going to use Animate Rope to tie up to this rock ledge up here. And then I'm going to tie this, I'm going to tie a big-ass rock around it. All right, I move the rope around. And just swing as a pendulum of death. I've seen hordes of goblins just fall to their death via one transmutation spell. I've hung people with Animate Rope. You know, I don't know, it's just a very underutilized spell. And it's always had a little special place in my heart.
I've got a very close second, if that's all right.
Go for it.
It's a spell from an expanded book, and God, I love the spell to death. It's from the Chronomancy book, from 3.5. It's called Deja Vu.
Ooh, I don't know. I've never used that one.
It's a higher level spell, and believe me, you'll understand why in a second. But basically, when you cast Deja Vu, the target takes all the damage it sustained in the previous round as that damage that it sustained.
Oh
like
my
if it
God!
took 3 fire damage, 7 stab damage, it would take that again in that one instant.
Oh my God, is that in 5th edition? Because I know exactly what I'm going to have once I hit 6th level.
It's a 3.5 book.
Damn it! That sounds like...
It might still be, though. Take a look in the spell list.
I'm looking. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be a 3rd level spell, though. Oh my God, that is so broken. I love it. I love it so much.
Well, yeah, of course it's broken. It was a high level spell, and I think it was a white wolf, I want to say. No, or a white pelican, or whatever it is.
What?
The publisher that made the book.
White Wolf is one of them, but I've never heard of White
I
Pelican?
think it
you
was
said.
pelican or something like that. Pelican?
I have no
I don't
idea.
I have
I'm
my books on.
I'm busy looking at this 5th edition spell list just in hopes that this spell exists.
So, where we're at in this podcast tonight, should we have Al propose the question to the audience,
Of course.
or do we want to just give a couple more questions ourselves?
No, it's Alcipher's turn.
Oh
this,
my word.
This entire episode is about putting him on the spot.
Well, you've done that. Let's see here. Well,
Oh, it's not in 5th edition.
my mind instantly goes to gnomes with these sort of things. All right.
Yes.
I am sad. Deja vu is not a spell in 5th edition.
We heard you the first time.
Sorry, it was Mongoose Publishing.
What the hell is Mongoose Publishing?
It's the people that made the book.
This episode brought to you by Mongoose Publishing. Just kidding. We don't have any sponsors. But if you want to fill this dead air right now, please sponsor us.
If you want us to talk about or stop talking about sponsoring, then just carry up and sponsor us already.
And in the meantime, ponder this question. As you approach a run-down, derelict town, you spot a shadow fleeting behind a corner. Looks to be the size of a child. It seems to be clutching something in its arms. What do you do?
Fuck that, I'm out.
Power word
anything to do
kill.
with kids and shadows, I'm out.
Power word kill.
We're not supposed to answer it yet, Mike or Mal.
That's just the thing that first popped into my head.
We don't want to give the audience any idea.
Fine, audience, you cannot use power word kill.
So, where can we be found, everybody?
Our YouTube channel at DMs and Dicebags, Twitter at DMs and Dicebags. I don't know the email
Oh
at
hell,
the
you
top.
can find me there.
What's the Gmail? Was it just DMs and Dicebags at gmail.com?
Nope.
We don't have a Facebook yet, do we?
Nope.
You can
We're
find
working on it.
you can find Bleakborn on his YouTube channel or any street corner. You know, he's usually there handing out, flyers and coupons. You can find me wherever you'd think you'd find a bard. So everywhere, I'm bringing the smiles of joy on people's faces, or on my YouTube page, YouTube page at Malatach. Spud, where can they find you?
They can, apart from here. Lol.
And coming
Yeah,
to
Spud's our moderator, so.
Yep, you can find him at any fast food restaurant. He comes with everything, and you can get him in small, medium, and large.
Salted or non-salted?
After this, I'm pretty sure it's going to be extra salty.
Oh.
There is no non-salted option here.
Oh, that's great.
You got anything you want to say, Al, before we close off tonight?
Well, if you want to hang out with me a bit, come check me out at twitch.tv/Alcipher.
I just got a Twitch.
What do you do there?
I stream video games, actually.
You have a
Whole...
schedule?
At the moment, it's play around 3 a.m.
Keep plugging. What are you playing right now?
Time zone, man.
At the moment, I'm playing Stardew Valley, but I'm looking to start up some horror games. They're relatively older horror games, such as Alien Isolation, Outlast. But
I was
think-
when you sorry to cut you off, but when you said older, I was thinking like ye old Alone in the Dark.
old.
Well, because you
I
said
was
they're
thinking
older.
Amnesia.
Yeah, you're like Alien Isolation
Well,
came
well-
out what, like a year or two ago?
Well, it's like,
It's
my
okay, Mal, he's
playthrough
a
would be
young-
behind the time for other people.
There
There
is
is
one.
one.
Dungeon
Talk
Lords
Slender
on
the
our-
Arrival.
What'd
See
you
that one again, Spud?
I'm saying, you want to talk old? Talk Slender the Arrival.
Oh my god.
I actually do have that one.
you want to talk really old, me and Mal on our channels are playing Dungeon Lords.
Yeah. No, it's an old RPG, broken as all hell, and by that I mean glitchy. And that was the very first game that me and Bleak ever played. That's how we met. I moved to Minneapolis. He was already living there, and I picked up this game for like $3, and we started playing. And it's everything else is history. He taught me how to play Magic. He really taught me how to play D&D. Everything started from this goddamn game, and we never finished it.
But we were talking about old horror games.
I know that, but Bleak brought up Dungeon Lords.
Well, I just said old games, so...
Yeah. So, I mean...
It's also very horrifying that the glitches are so evil.
Yes, he teleports... He loves trees. His character, he's playing a girl who has a fantastic...
I like trees.
And his character has a fantastic ass. And it just loves trees. And it just goes to the first tree he can. As soon as he gets out of a church, I feel refreshed. Tree! And then just, does his business. And we can't ever get...
stuck there.
Yeah, he gets stuck in trees. So, but that's what you can find us playing besides other games. I would ask Spud what he's playing, but I don't know if, a phone lets...
God, Breath of the Wild.
Well, I talked about it. You could record something off your phone. There's a screen recorder for your phone, and you could play something on your phone.
I will have Breath of the Wild. I'm too busy with that right now.
Okay.
If us all play a game together, please let us know in the comments below.
Yeah. Until then, Malatach.
Bleakborn.
Oh God, and what am I doing here?
You're Spud.
I am. Don't know what I'm doing here though.
With special guest Alcipher.
Even he's calling himself special.
And that's it, guys. And remember, if you take anything away from what any of the shit that we talk about, don't ever let somebody else jiggle your dice bag.
Or fondle it.
Bye.
Bye.
Heat up the fryer.
Quiero.